Hi, this is Coach Jim McGannon with Basics. We were founded in 2006, and over the years we've worked with thousands of players, many of whom have made their school teams, and now we have over 100 who've gone on to play in college. We're a small organization by design, really, as one of our core values is to limit the number of kids in the gym. We know that kids learn more effectively with fewer distractions and more repetitions. Youth sports generally, and youth basketball in particular, are a mismatch of opposing interests, misunderstood requirements for competitive growth, and incorrectly held beliefs of how kids develop in their sport. As we approach another winter of youth and school basketball, it occurred to me that the topic of this podcast, these critical years for development, basically ages 10 until 13, would be of value for the parents. While I assume people listening to this are mostly Basics parents and families, I hope to reach a larger audience. Our footprint is quite small, just a few gyms in West Michigan. Obviously, youth basketball is enormous. Our staff is in many different gyms, and we see thousands of young kids, the vast majority of whom have poor, if any, skill. While this podcast is directed to our parents, we're hoping to reach this larger audience and explain why these ages, again, basically ages 10 to 13, are really the foundation if the players hope to compete and succeed someday at any level. While we'd love all these kids to come to Basics training, that's not going to happen. So hopefully we can educate the parents enough where perhaps they can insist upon some of the points made here with their local teams and coaches. So as we get going, we have 3 R's, like there are 3 R's in school, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Our 3 R's are repetition, reinforcement, and results. And this will be the body of this podcast. First, repetition. Repetition is king. So many of these kids are not given the required repetition to succeed. They're forced to compete way too soon. It's unfortunate. They're out on the court, they're playing in leagues and tournaments, they're being taught plays, and they don't have the ability to even play yet. So repetition is absolutely critical. That dovetails into the second R, which is reinforcement. This one is really in the court of the coaches. The coaches must show the players how to play, how the skills are executed. They need to give them the required repetitions. But as these players mature over the course of the season and over the course of this age period that we're discussing, the reinforcement is critical. Basketball, as many of the players have heard through Basics, is a very precisely executed game. It's a tiny surface, only 5 kids get to play. You can tell immediately when kids can't play. It's obvious. Some of the other sports, you can kind of hide kids. Not in basketball. So the reinforcement and the precise execution of these skills is required. And this is not something that's developed in games or leagues or tournaments. It's required with repetition and reinforcement. The final R is results. This is one of my favorite topics. We have a mental strength training exercise and service where the primary component with the more advanced players in the area is to teach them that the results are almost always out of their control. They can control or participate in the outcome, but really you can't be so focused on the result because it will impede your performance. It does. Kids who are overly focused on outcomes, results, wins, losses, points, rebounds are hamstrung. They're likely to play less well as the game unfolds or as the season unfolds. Try not to focus on the results so much. We're not going to get into the topic of process versus results. That's another topic. But at the highest levels, the best players are more interested in the process for improvement than they are in the results of the game. So those are the 3 R's. Now, this, as we finish up here, There are 4 laws of learning. This is fairly well known. And the 4 laws of learning are explanation, demonstration, imitation, and repetition. Coach Wooden at UCLA got a hold of that, and he said, yeah, we're going to double that. There's really 8 laws of learning. And your eyes might go, what? 8 laws? I thought there were 4 laws. Well, Wooden's 8 laws of learning were explanation, demonstration, imitation, repetition, 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 repetition. So it's just critical that these kids at this age get the required repetitions, have the reinforcement there from the coaches, and then try not to focus too much on the result, but more on the process for improvement. So as we conclude this podcast, here's really the message I want the parents to hear. Don't mistake competitive growth of your son or daughter with the competition they're signed up for. At its very root, competition is a measurement of skill. Of course, skill includes physical fitness, conditioning, strength, how the player thinks. It's got multi-dimensions to it, but so many people focus on the competition, and the kids aren't even ready yet. And the analogy we use, of course, is some of the parents here have heard it, the kids have heard it too, is the math analogy. It's absolutely perfect analogy. Some kid might be able to add and subtract, multiply and divide. He might even know algebra to some small degree. If you come in and then throw a physics exam at this kid, he's going to fail. It's foregone conclusion he's going to fail. It's identical in basketball. Some of these kids might have the ability to dribble. Maybe they can shoot with proper form. They have some of these rudimentary skills. Well, then if you put them in some travel tournament or there's some high-level competition, and basically failure is almost guaranteed. So give them the required skills, the repetitions first. And especially at these critical ages, right? 10 to 13 is the name of the game. These kids are developing at this age now. If they're sitting on a bench or if they're learning plays versus the skills, they're hamstrung and they are going to have a difficult time competing. So thanks for listening. Feel free to call or email with any questions, and good luck to you and your kids. We hope to see you soon.